Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of HoopSocial, the Creator Hour. I am Ori B, your host as always, and I am here to introduce our latest guest. We're going to have a Nate from Hoops Temple podcast on later. It's going to be really exciting, talking some NBA playoff action, talking a little bit about the Lakers and Nuggets series, a little bit about the Suns and Wolves series, and just about the NBA playoffs in general. He's a really good source, and so I'm really looking forward to that conversation. Moving forward, today's beginning was difficult when I wanted to start things. Um, I noticed that a lot of conversations, despite the high quality basketball that we saw in some of the games, the refereeing and the replay center have been called into question several times lately and in press conferences, and deservedly so. I'm not going to say that this is any sort of ignorance that the players are trying to perpetuate, but at the same time, I feel like it's uh, it's situational for sure. Each situational is you have to judge individually because, for instance, in the Lakers Denver situation where D'Angelo Russell was clearly fouled and was challenged, and somehow the foul was not seen. I'm not sure how something like that slid by. I don't know how that happens. LeBron definitely has a point bringing that up in the presser, but in that same light, in this particular circumstance, it does kind of leave a poor taste in the mouth because you also were up by 20 at one point in this game. So it's kind of the referee blaming thing. I know is such a popular trope in the NBA and major sports in general, for sure. We always are right there to blame the refs when something doesn't go our way. That's very typical, and I'm not condoning that behavior necessarily, or condemning that behavior necessarily. But at the same time, this situation matters, and I know every play is so important. And especially in the playoffs, everything is so much more, meticulous and so much more focused and so much more, we have to get this right every play. So we don't want to miss a single opportunity. And we don't want the refs to be determining games. I get that. But you also have to kind of we all been there. Like we've seen these things happen before. So it's a twofold issue. Like if we're going to be using replays and we're going to have these processes in place, they have to be as accurate as possible. Yes, absolutely. In the same notion, if we're going to, have these systems in place that we trust, we have to trust the systems in place to the best of our ability. We can't take every presser and be pissing all over them. I just I don't know. It's a tough situation, and I'm sure there are plenty different opinions. I'm not even quite sure how I feel about all of it, but it just like I said, I mean the refereeing being such a overwhelming conversation when we just want to talk about the basketball is tough for me. I get disappointed when that becomes the main conversation, and it's too bad that we're in a situation where it became the main conversation in a couple games, and we're gonna see what happens. I mean, LeBron pointed it out. We know that there was a purpose for him pointing it out. I wouldn't be surprised the Lakers get more free throws in the next game than the Nuggets by a healthy margin. Who knows? But it's interesting. It's interesting to me. and I'll be curious what our guest thinks. He's a big Laker fan. He's a guy that I think is super passionate as a Lakers fan, and is definitely a guy that tries to be objective as well, which is certainly admirable in this particular industry. So let's all welcome our guest, Nate from the Hoops Temple podcast. Let's get him up here. Nate, let's see if you can join us. Let's make sure. There we go. I gotcha. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you all right. And I'm very glad that you introduced me as being objective, because the first thing that I just want to get up here and say is that the Lakers have no room to complain about free throws. I mean, we've seen the disparity that's been shared 1,000 times. The Lakers over the last 2 or 3 years are like plus 1,000 free throws on their opponents. I get it. Calls will be missed. Calls will always be missed. LeBron had an open shot to try to win this game. It's not the fact that they missed one free throw call, well, that swung this game. That's just kind of how it happens sometimes. Like, if you want to go back and re-legislate every free throw, I'm gonna guess Lakers are still getting the benefit of these calls.
Right. And for sure. And that's why to me it's tough to have a fully clear opinion on said matter, because it's just, I don't know, it's tricky stuff. They're trying. I know they're trying their best. At least I believe that they're trying their best to keep integrity in the game, and we have to have that optimism towards the game, right?
I mean, or we just say, ref, swallow your whistle and just let the players play. Like, I will always rather have a non-call than a call. I was watching the Timberwolves Suns game earlier today to try to catch up. I am 2 games short of having watched every playoff game thus far. And like, there's a point where Booker kind of grabs Cat and shoves him out of bounds. And like, the play was going on the rest of the court. The Wolves had a fast break. It was completely inconsequential, and the ref just didn't call it. 100% should be a foul. The announcers get all riled up. It didn't affect the game. No one was hurt. And in circumstances like that, you maybe do want to call that because someone could get hurt. But like, we all grew up playing basketball outside with our buddies. You call your own fouls at some, like, yeah, you're probably getting fouled on every play. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just play through it to some degree.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not great at segues, but we're going to move on to you in this moment. I typically like to let my content creators that come on here as guests kind of share a little bit about their journey to content creation. So, first question, what has led you to this moment as a content creator?
So I think it has to start off with a little bit of like how I became a fan, because I was introduced to basketball in a weird, like, time capsule state. My family had moved from Pasadena, a suburb of Los Angeles, to northern Indiana, and we kept getting mistaken for another family who had also had like the same demographics, about the same age as my parents. They had 2 girls the same age as my sister. Actually, the one girl and my older sister went to school together and just didn't know each other. But we kept getting mistaken for each other, and we finally meet this other family, and he's an LA Times sports writer. He has Lakers games recorded for basically his entire life. I'm talking, he's got any like rerun of West, of Baylor, of Wilt. I have watched every single Magic Johnson playoff victory. He threw away a lot of the games that they lost, but he had the VHS tapes of this.
Of course.
He did keep some of the historic ones. So if Bird did something really great, I've seen those too. So it's not completely biased, but every Tuesday I'd go over there, and they had girls for my sisters to play with. The parents hung out, and I watched basketball. And as such, you don't meet many kids. I'll be 32 on Saturday. You don't meet many other people in the early 2000s who are going back watching games from the 80s. It does kind of isolate you from like talking to your friends at school about, but hey man, I was watching Magic Johnson play against Alex English, or let me talk to you guys about Dominique Wilkins, and that kind of
Question:
forces you
Who?
exactly. Um, I remember moving to Michigan, and someone was trying to tell me that Rashid, because he had just gotten to the Pistons, was a top 5 power forward. And they're like, who else in the conversation? I brought up Pau Gasol, who was still in Memphis. And they're like, who is Pau? Like, you'll hear about him soon. And so when you get that deep into like basketball lore and knowing the random guys throughout history, there's kind of, you either become a complete shut-in, which I talk way too much for that, or you have to find other people that share this interest, and that's content creation. That's finding someone to talk to this stuff about. Like, I love talking with Aaron, because he shares the same passion for digging back into the history. And I love talking to Dylan because Dylan's just smarter than me. He doesn't dig back into the history, but if you want obscure stats, if you want to hear a case well made and beautifully spoken with a wonderful Kiwi accent, I'm so fortunate to do a podcast with these two guys. Like it makes my life a really great place.
Well, it's and you guys, I mean, you have great chemistry, but what's most important, I think, as content creators is kind of a little bit what you touched on is that fandom and the basis of the fandom. So you being a guy that developed his fandom in that way with the Lakers and kind of growing organically with the history. Do you think because of that you respect the history a lot more than most people your age? And what kind of insight do you think that gives you?
I mean, I don't know that it necessarily gives me a ton of insight. I have met people like Dylan, for one, wonderful basketball analysis without ever digging much into the history. Um, you know, I think it's sometimes we as people who want to be analysts, we who are content creators, we make too big of a deal out of this sometimes. Like, you're putting a ball in a hoop, and yeah, we can study flare screens and pin down options and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's basketball. Like, kids play this game. Um, you know, I don't think it gives me a lot of special analysis into the ins and outs of it, but I do think it's a really fun talking point. And I will say basketball has given me greater insight into larger conversations. I don't know if this will show properly, but this is my basketball bookshelf. There's more that can't be seen. Um, and it's been a windows into a lot of people's histories and upbringings, and I've learned more about race through reading about basketball. I've learned more about the civil rights movement through reading about basketball than I ever did in school or in history books, because it's certain people's lives. A lot of the guys that founded the NBA came from World War II. Red Auerbach, you're a legendary Celtics coach. Do you know his World War II ties? Do you know what he did?
No, no, no. I don't know all the stories. No.
Auerbach served, and one of the things that they started to do for troops to boost morale was put on these games in the Army. Army, Navy games. I don't believe the Air Force had technically been split out yet. Um, but he started organizing those games and planning them. And so when the NBA got started up, or the BAA at the time, Auerbach walked into the Washington Capitals' general manager, their owner, and was like, listen, I used to do this in the Army. I can get you the best players from World War II if you hire me to be your coach. And the guy was like, cool, let's do it. And that's how Auerbach went from being a high school coach to coaching the BAA, coach with Washington Capitals for a couple of seasons, then the Tri-City Blackhawks, then the Boston Celtics. And it was all just because of these World War II ties.
That's fascinating. That is super fascinating. It's that's the kind of detail that I feel someone that consumes a lot of history really can showcase as a content creator. Do you appreciate bringing things like that out to people?
I love it. I love it because you know, you and I were probably on the same side of the we done with the '90s trend of it just being kind of
Yeah.
silly. But like even people who aren't done with the '90s will do that to the '70s, will do that to the '60s. Basketball's gotten progressively better. Players have gotten better. I'm not trying to say that. They've developed more skills, they have put more focus into it, the training regimens have gotten up. But every era, and the best players from every era, are the guys that brought something different to the game, who advanced the game in some way, shape, or form. And knowing those stories, you can find a Bill Russell book and a Kobe Bryant book and read about their mindsets, and it's eerily similar how they process the game.
That's it's I think that's what makes the game so beautiful too, is hearing those unique insights and seeing, these people with such tremendous IQ when it comes to the game and their inner workings and what makes them tick. I find to be fascinating. So that's very cool that you are into that sort of, you know, material as well.
Thanks.
Um, you're a big Lakers fan. I talked about that earlier. My question, I guess, as a Lakers guy, is what are the moments for you that really solidified that Lakers fandom? I guess those great moments in Lakers history that really have stuck with you in your personal life.
It feels weird to say, but like I have a strong affinity for like the Smush Parker teams or for like the Kobe post Achilles. Um, the Lakers
Ooh,
I've gotten to witness a lot of winning. And in some ways it's kind of made me a little bit numb to it, which is I realize horrible thing to say, but literally my childhood was watching only Lakers wins because that family friend threw out the Lakers losses. And so it's kind of fun to watch the young teams, the teams that get to grow and like try to develop. You know, uh, I watch Lakers all around the league. I'm watching Josh Hart with the Knicks. I'm watching in Brandon Ingram try to take over and win games against the Thunder. I'm watching Zubac go Zual Sindor. Like I really
yeah,
do love those young guys teams from Kobe's like post Achilles tear. That was fun to watch and see the struggle.
that's I that not a lot of people would probably admit that over the airways, and I have to say I am impressed. That team was certainly
Garbage. They were
some
bad.
yeah, they were certainly something in Lakers history, huh?
And like I get to watch a lot of garbage basketball. I live in Michigan. I went to the first Pistons Wizards games this year. But like, there is something enjoyable seeing a team grow together and become something. Um, Watching that Denver championship last year, that team after all they've gone through to come together and win it, like that was really special. Um, the Kawhi Toronto championship, not quite as special. It was like a rent a championship. I'm working on like a Taylor Swift uh the NBA team comparison. She's got her new song out, Fortnite. I'm like, that's the Raptors. They loved Kawhi, but it was only a fortnight.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I know that one's. It was always kind of like a Merc for hire type of championship where he just kind of came in, did his thing, and left. I mean, props for him. Absolutely boosted his legacy. But yeah, I definitely appreciate the organic teams.
hmm What about you as a Celtics guy? Come on, you got to feel some sort of way towards watching the team, the current team, having been together, kind of growing through the struggles. Was that's got to feel nice.
I, I like honestly, I like the fact that at least we're competitive and contending while we're doing so. at least we're making it
Mhm.
to Eastern Conference championships amidst the growing pains. Like like you, I'm only 34, younger, so my, you know, formulative years when it came to fandom, I was, 1998. Paul Pierce was my guy. Couldn't believe he
Mhm.
made it to my team, and I was locked in. And we went through some really bad seasons,
Yeah.
some really weird teams,
But how'd that '08 team
and
feel after watching Pierce for so long? That had to have felt magical, right?
it was that those are the moments that sports I feel gives people that you just can't quite emulate in other aspects of life, because that moment where he got to have that championship after
Mhm.
putting so much work in and having so many issues and just so much crap, and to have that just run magically turn out the way it did. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it, man. That's the beauty of
Yeah, I mean, I fucking hate Paul Pierce, but I'm glad you got to have
it.
that moment.
Right.
Lakers fan here, but
Paul Pierce. I, I pun intended. I am a Paul Pierce truther, so I tend to push him
fair,
everywhere I
fair.
go. Even though
Uh,
even though he doesn't do himself a whole lot of favors.
hey, he made it on the athletics list for the GOAT conversation. One of the 133 players gave him a vote for the GOAT, so he's going places.
Well, there we go. Now that is a fascinating 133 players. I hadn't seen that development. Got explain that to me a little bit more.
Yeah.
How does he get involved with it? Who was
So
voting?
the Athletics sent out a survey to, I believe, every player in the NBA this year and asked them just a whole mess of questions. Which coach would you like to play for other than your own? Which coach would you least like to play for other than your own? Who is the best defensive player? Who would you put as MVP? And different people responded to different numbers. So, like, most overrated, I think it was only 80 something guys responded. They did vote for Rudy Gobert, but it's like 11 guys or something gave him a vote. Um, but
Gotcha.
they asked all the players, hey, who is your GOAT? And I think 130 something responded. And it was like 42% Jordan, 41% LeBron, 10% Kobe, and then Paul Pierce, and I think one other guy got a random vote.
Power of Boston fans, I guess. They it's
Someone. I blame Marcus Smart.
uh, that that totally follows. That tracks. I get it.
He'd be the one.
Oh, so now with the content creation game, naturally it becomes difficult to stay innovative and stay. I mean, there's so many of us out there trying to keep moving the needle. What motivates you to keep doing what you do now that you're part of this crew and this community?
I got a son due in September, and if I can hit 10,000 followers, I get money for diapers.
Yeah, there it is. There it is, folks. That was
Got
simple.
Gotta get TikTok famous so I can afford diapers. You know how much inflation's going up these days? That's where
Right.
I'm at.
There's no greater promo than that, guys. He needs diapers, and you know what? He happens to have a great matrix of NBA players, so might as well connect the dots there.
And WNBA players now. I
I
I
saw. I'm fascinated. That's awesome.
I'm loving doing some of the WNBA stuff because I don't know anything about the WNBA. And I'm learning. And so when people like throw out, hey, you should do a video on this person, like Margo Dick. Do you know who Margo Dick is?
Only because of your video, but
I didn't know that there was a 7'2" tall woman who played pro basketball and like was just a menace. It's crazy to see her out there against like 5'7" girls when they try to drive the lane. It's like, oh yeah, that's what would happen if I went up against Wemby. Like my shot would be in the fifth row. Um, it's fun to learn these things.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because the WNBA for me has been one of those things that I probably started following more in the last, I'd say 5 to 6 years. Started tracking more, and I find it to be so satisfying in the sense that if you're just seeking high quality basketball, it's like, why was I not consuming more of the WNBA previous to this? So it's a high quality game on the court, and the talent level has never been better. It's I mean, I don't mean to go full WNBA promo here, but I'm all in. It's exciting for them right now.
I said a few years back that if I could invest in any company, it'd be one of the WNBA teams. Like if they were open to the public for investing, that would be. I think the sport is going to continue to grow. They've already grown rapidly. They got a new media rights deal coming up. If you could buy stock in one of those franchises, like that's easy money. And like I see, we're getting some comments. I'm, I'm cheating. I pulled it up on the side. That's why I keep kind of glancing over here. Uh, but
You're good.
Kill Pie, Kill Pie. It says that the WNBA needs more people to talk about them. Needs, people to do player and draft and team rankings. And like that's I'm trying to do it. I built a matrix. It is all formula based. This is not opinional. Well, but when people ask for players, I'm starting to try to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
There are some really good WNBA content creators out there. I don't know if you guys see Coach Jackie on the TikToks, but she does a lot of women's sports news. Just fantastic follow.
It's good stuff. It really is. I don't follow her in particular. I'll have to look her up. But like it's 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 to the point now where the only thing that it needs is just more PR. That's it, because
Mm-hmm.
the product is a great product. So the more eyeballs, the further it's going to go, because it's good. It's good stuff, and the stars exist. The talent is there. So I'm really excited for the possibility of the WNBA's future.
Absolutely. But you brought me on to talk playoffs. You want to talk some playoffs?
Exactly. Oh, we are like I said previously, segues aren't my thing. So you kind of just nailed it right there, and we're gonna roll with it. Playoffs, baby, playoffs. I need to know right now, just overall experience wise, how much fun are you having so far?
None whatsoever. I'm trying to get every single game in. I am watching so much basketball, and I'm really trying to do the full, not watching them live, but at least the 2 hour version on NBA League Pass, so I can like back it up and I can see all the little inner dynamics. During the regular season, I do a lot of the 40-minute like super cuts,
Mhm.
because like hey, if I miss a free throw, whatever, that's fine. Playoffs, I want every moment of the action, so that's I haven't seen the first half of this game 2 of Knicks 76ers and game 1 of Bucks Pacers. Other than that, I'm caught up, and no, the games have been really fun. My son's takes are getting taken to task. I had them winning the series, but like it's funny. I like Minnesota more, and people are
Yeah.
roasting me. I'm like, I thought Phoenix was going to win. I'm not unhappy about this. I really don't like the Suns. They bastardized the sport with their moves, and they didn't pay any attention to roster construction things. I just thought it was a bad matchup for Minnesota, so I'm very happy they're winning. What's been your favorite series thus far?
you know, it's tough. I I can tell you my least favorite is Cleveland Orlando. Not gonna lie, I was gonna say all aboard the Orlando train,
Mm,
but I was definitely considering tickets. Let's just say that much. And I feel like they have shown absolutely no fight, and it's kind of disappointing to me. This I thought was going to be a dogfight, and I can see this turning into a gentleman's sweep. And I'm really disappointed in the Magic, to be honest, and that's left a bad taste in my mouth. But all the other series have been fun for me.
so I picked the Cavs in 5 before the series started, and I was really nervous about that pick. So I have watched both Cavs Magic games, tuned in live for them because I wanted to make sure that my pick was somewhat solid. And I think with Orlando, they just weren't quite ready for the moment. It's their first time in the playoffs, and the other thing is that they're a hustle and energy team. And when you
Mm.
go into an opponent's building in the playoffs, that can hit you hard. I do think that there is a lot of hope for them to bounce back in game 3. Because like they thrive on their home crowd. They thrive on just being more aggressive, going after the ball, playing tough D, and you do get more calls at home. You do get a more favorable whistle. It wouldn't shock me to see them take game 3.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the one that they have to if they want to make it any sort of series.
Mhm.
Um, they have to. I think they have to show. They have to show, not just take it, obviously, but show some real resilience because I feel like I haven't seen that from them yet. And that's what kind of made them special in the regular season, in my opinion, was yes, they're that young, hustle bustle, fast team that's trying to, run you up and down the court. And they have Paolo, they got Franz Wagner, they have the talent level there, even though it's
Mhm.
just young. But I don't know. I didn't expect this. Not gonna lie.
The Cavs needed to do this after getting smoked last year. They needed to have this be their opening season. Their opening series. Because if it wasn't going to be this, you got to blow it up. You got to move everyone off. So
How not to switch gears completely, but since we're talking about the Eastern Conference a little bit, what about the New York Knicks? The New York Knicks without Julius Randle are an interesting team, and they seem to have the opposite of Orlando. These guys have a ton of resilience and seem to have
mhm.
a lot of fight and a lot of dog in them. How far can this Knicks squad go?
I mean, I think they're going to take care of business against Philly. Philly has been better than what I expected. I did not think Embiid looked good in the play-in game, kind of laboring up and down the court. I thought he's looked much better in the actual series, and Maxey has outplayed my expectations for him. I have underrated Maxey at literally every turn. I pushed for the 76ers to try to trade him last year to get Embiid and Harden enough chips to try to make a title. We'll push. Didn't happen. I didn't think he was going to be an all-star this year. That happened. I've been against Maxey at literally every turn. So when I say he's outperformed me, you've got like a lot of history backing up my skepticism. Um, but once they get past them, then it's either Indiana or Milwaukee. And I haven't seen Giannis be declared healthy yet. So I'm kind of assuming that they're going to get past whichever team advances at this point. So that's
Yeah,
Eastern Conference Finals. How are you feeling about the potential of facing them? Your Celtics facing them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
they, they are the exact type of team that scares me. Is that you
They
know
sh-
that they have that. I hate to say it, but that kind of Miami Heat vibe that carried last season in the sense that it comes from the foundation. It comes from the core. This Thibodeau led squad. These are all the right pieces for him to use, and he's got like just such a cohesive unit, even without Randall there now. Like Brunson has proven to be such a tremendous leader, in my opinion, that they're a scary squad. They really are.
Yeah, I mean they've got a lot of good wing defenders. I said earlier in earlier in this live show about watching Lakers from past teams on their current teams. Randall is one such Laker. Um, but the Knicks low key have some advantages when he's off the court, and Randall does a lot with the ball that can take away from some of the other guys. He's not quite as in the flow of things with the other guys. There are a lot of bad Randall isolations. He is not a particularly great defensive player. So having OG more at the four, like there are pros and cons of not having Randall. It's not just like Randall's gone. They have this huge negative. There are some advantages to not having Randall out there.
So this isn't just a Ewing effect kind of thing, right? As Bill Simmons used to say, right?
No. I mean, there are pros and cons. If you added Randall back, I don't know that it makes the Knicks like a ton better than when he's gone. Kind of like what's going on with the Pelicans. Zion went down and they were still competitive in game one. Well, Zion and Ingram occupy the same floor space a lot of the times. They both are better with the ball in their hands. They're neither one's a really great off-ball player and spacer. So they both kind of are the best when the other one sits and they have Herb and Jose and Trey. Like they got spacers and shooters and defenders around them. So like sometimes having two really good players when they don't mesh perfectly doesn't necessarily make each, it's not 1 + 1 is 2. It's 1 + 1 equals like 1.5 or 1.25 in Randall's case.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense, sadly. But I definitely can see where you're coming from there. He's an interesting guy because he does do some things obviously at a super elite level, but there just are some tragic flaws that exist within his game as well. So I mean, you take what you get, and he's still a far above average player. So
Oh yeah, and like when Brunson would sit and it could be Randall time, the Knicks really missed that. But the closing of Randall and Brunson together, they're probably better off closing without having Randall. So it's pros and cons.
Yep. Now, not to switch gears,
Switch them.
but I love to switch gears, so I'm going to Western Conference. I wanted to talk Lakers Denver, obviously, given your connection and fandom. But so many people have had this conversation, and the Lakers are cooked.
And
Do
you want to make me
we?
live this again? You want to
Do
keep
we?
making me
Do
live? Is that the Celtics fan in you? You're trying to hurt me?
kind of. I mean, as the greatest franchise in NBA history, the Lakers should be a little better, shouldn't they? No, I'm just kidding. Is should we like? Are the Lakers relevant anymore? Why do we keep talking about them if they're gonna get cooked by Denver? Like I understand that they were the 7th seed and they won their what they had to do to be the 7th seed, but they're a 7th seed. Like I know LeBron's there. Is it just
Or
is it just that popularity thing, guy? Like, come on,
it's
man. What's going on with these?
we in America love small businesses. We love the idea of the mom and pop shop. That's really what the Lakers are down at their core. Just a man passing on the business to his children, investing everything the family has is in this, going up against a multinational media sports empire complex. The Kroenke family owns the Nuggets, the LA Rams, the Colorado Avalanche, Arsenal, and the Lakers, the Bus family. It's just the Lakers. It's just that mom and pop shop up here, and that's what America's built on. It's loving
Oh,
small mom and pop shops.
I I don't see that at all. No, no, no,
No,
none of
you don't.
that was no traction with that analogy, but uh, maybe if you said the Waltons potentially, or but
The ones who own
uh,
Walmart.
right, right. But
uh,
the LeBron effect is going to be done soon. So are we just trying to squeeze the last bit of the juice left?
the one thing that the Lakers have done very well since the beginning of Buss's tenure is market the city to stars. It's got a lot of perks living in LA. You are going to have more mass marketing appeal. Lakers players get more brand deals than other teams' players do, and are broadcast way more to all areas around the globe. And like that's something the Lakers have been really good at sowing international fan bases. So if you want to be super internationally famous, you get to LA. And I do realize that it sucks from a like competitive balance standpoint. And as someone who really enjoyed watching the the post Achilles tear Lakers with Kobe, like it was fun to watch the young team. That will never be the Lakers. They will always go big star hunting, and they'll find someone. And, you know, I don't know that they'll be in the contender conversation for another good couple of years, but the advantages of LA as a market and the advantages that the Lakers ownership has shown that they're willing to put towards a star will get the Lakers, stars again in the future. Or whether they should or shouldn't, whether management is good or bad or drafts well or trades well, you know, they'll they'll dumb luck backwards their way into it.
Uh, Sadly, you're probably right. So I guess we're gonna have to just keep the conversations going the way that they're going and
Yeah, I mean, Ori,
live with
if
it.
you had the option, would you rather live in sunny, sunshine Los Angeles or somewhere that's cold and has a history of racism like Boston?
Ha, ha, ha. Well, as a Mainer and New Englander who clearly loves his situation, I would tell you I would choose everything sans the racism. Sans the racism.
So you're telling me you want to live in the sunshine? You want to be able to walk to the beach and a beach that you can actually swim at
Hey, hey, we got beaches too. They just,
or cold?
lighthouses, coastal rocks. You just got to
Yeah,
keep your beach shoes on.
yeah, not my jam. Give me the sun and the surf.
Oh, there we go. Sun and surf. There's my segue. Sun and surf. Phoenix Suns.
Yeah,
Speaking of cooked, Anthony Edwards playing like the best player in the series, except for the off shooting in game two. I will say he still made his mark. This Timberwolves squad, the way that they're built, people are saying the finals. Do you see a finals run within this T-Wolves squad, or are we a little still too early?
I think Western Conference Finals is happening at this point. Like, to be fair, there is that part of me that still wants my pre-series take to pan out, and have the Suns magically regain it at home. I don't think it will happen, and I don't think OKC is going to take out Minnesota. So at this point, they seem to have found the right mixture. Their role players are hitting at the right time. Marcus Morris, he was negative 14 box plus minus in this last game. He played a lot better than that. He came in and provided valuable minutes. Had some good defensive stops. Like, if Nickeil Alexander-Walker is playing well, and Jaden McDaniels continues. Jaden McDaniels, after picking up that tech, just was a nightmare. Like Ant said before the series, they got KD, we got McDaniels. McDaniels outplayed KD, Booker, and Beal all together. And it seemed like every Suns possession, normally when you try to run pick and roll, you try to get the worst defender. You try to target someone. Somehow they kept getting McDaniels. I don't know how it happened, but he defended KD, Booker, and Beal on consecutive possessions. Wherever the ball was, he was there. This Timberwolves team is really fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the numbers. I mean, but Beal was six makes, Durant was 6 makes, Booker was 6 makes, and all of them under 45% shooting, all of them having making nothing from the 3-point line. Like it was just to see the Suns' big three so contained and having that be their elite skill is supposed to be the offensive side of the ball. So are the Timberwolves going to be able to do this to other teams as well? Or is this a matchup thing?
They're definitely benefiting a little bit due to the Suns' lack of offense. And like it's a lack of offensive play. They've kind of always just been so heavy where there's not a lot of fluidity or movement. I'm recalling the section in the third quarter. Booker's got the ball up top. Beal curls around on a Nurkic screen, gets the ball, and then everyone freezes as Beal is just in the mid-range by himself trying to work against, I think it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, doesn't get anywhere. Start of the game, tracking where Karl Anthony Towns is, because that's usually how Phoenix won in the regular season, is they just cook Towns. Well, Towns is on Durant, and Durant's standing in the corner. There's no movement. There's no fluidity to their offensive game. So that's definitely making life a lot easier for Minnesota. I think OKC will be better than that, but OKC does do a lot of Shea kind of ISO drives. Jalen Williams, fair amount of ISO drives. Those are pull-ups, but I think if you don't have that fluidity in the system, that's pretty easy for Minnesota to guard and double down on.
Yeah. So Minnesota being that tough, I want to move on to the other game set that I have last night, the Clippers versus the Mavericks. Luka had a good game, did some Luka things. Still obviously a close game. These are two very good squads. I think they're closely matched. Where do you lie when it comes to how you lean in this series currently?
So before the series, I put the Clippers in 7. Dallas winning that game in Los Angeles is huge. The old adage is a series doesn't begin until someone wins on their opponent's floor. Dallas has done that. I still think the Clippers have a lot of advantages. Zubac got in early foul trouble and sent to the bench. Sue is not that foul prone, at least that's not a way that we expect this to be a repetitive thing for him to be out of the game. There were some weird rotational stuff with the Clippers late in the game where they pull Westbrook, Mavs go on a 9-0 run, put Westbrook back. It was a shaky fourth quarter from a coaching perspective that I don't love. But I really do think that the Clippers have enough versatility in their player personnel to get past Dallas. Dallas is good, but I don't think they have a versatile enough of offensive structure that over the course of the 7-game series, the Clippers will be able to figure it out.
All right, so moving on, then we have Denver, we have the Clippers, the Wolves, and we have the Thunder as our final four in the West. Is it a given at that point that the Wolves and Denver should be on a collision course?
Actually, did I get that mixed up? I think they are. They're in because the Wolves are 3-6, right?
Yes, they're 3-6 and 2-7, right? So it would be
3-6, 2-7. So they see each other, not not OKC.
Yes.
So I might have to take back what I said about them going to the Western Conference Finals. I see in the chat that here we've got someone saying that they almost beat the Nuggets without Cat and without Nas, and yeah, we saw that game. I still just don't buy it. I think that there is a lot that Denver can do. Minnesota has played them very well. Well, having the two bigs gives you someone that can be on Gobert or on
Jokic.
Jokic. Yeah. And then also have like a back line in rim protection and out there. So like they've got one of the best ways to sandwich him in the league. But his playmaking ability to set up other guys, his coming off screens, what he can do with Murray, I still think that's going to be enough to get them past Minnesota.
That so Denver gets past. We get a man. So I mean, after all the parity and all the battles in the Western Conference, I mean, it's really hard to not see Denver making it to the finals again.
I mean,
Would you say that that's pretty true?
it is and it isn't. Like, I think the Celtics will probably get to the Eastern Conference Finals losing, or we'll get to the NBA Finals with losing maybe 2 games, maybe 3. As it looks like they're going to lose this one to the Heat. Thank God, go Heat. But yeah, I don't know if you got an eye on the score, but Heat are up right now. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But like if Denver goes 7 against Minnesota and then goes 7 against the Clippers, like it wouldn't shock me. I think the difference, like I think the Celtics have a 90% chance of making the finals from the East. I think the Nuggets have like a 33% chance, and the Wolves have a like 25% chance, and the Clippers have like a 27%. Like there's a lot of teams very close together. And if you ask me to pick my favorite, it's Denver and Boston, but the levels of favoritism is dramatically different from how close the West is.
That's fair. That's fair. And I'm all right with that sentiment. Um, I, earlier we were touching on some stuff, and I forgot to ask for legacy wise. I know these conversations are difficult to have. We try to discuss how someone's career is ending. Do you think it damages LeBron's legacy more or Durant's legacy more, losing in the first round in this fashion at this stage?
I think we're just terrible about legacy conversations in general
Mm.
because like this happens whenever someone ages, is you start to drop them in your rankings. You start to look at those career averages again, which no one should ever look at career averages. But like, I've studied rankings, and rankings is a big part of what I do. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 88 starts getting dropped, or maybe it's 89 because they win in 88. But like you start seeing the Kareem is carried by Magic narrative. And it's like, well, no, Kareem was really good, and he was declared the best player of all time before Magic was like a sophomore. Like Kareem was up there, but then during the later years, you kind of forget about that. And I saw it with Shaq. There's an Elliot Cobb book, Who's Better, Who's Best. Shaq is rated as the number 1 player in that book. It was controversial at the time. It's a bit of a take beginning to take off. But then you watch Shaq with Boston and with Cleveland and those last couple of stops, and the Shaq ranking start to come down. And like you kind of trended during the end of players' careers. What could have been is now what is, and guys start to just fall off. It happened with Kobe post Achilles. So I think it will happen to LeBron and KD. Although at this point, I think LeBron is fairly squarely number 2, and KD is somewhere, 13 to 17, depending on people's preferences. But like, I do think it will happen as the guys this kind of fade out.
Yeah. So none of this is going to really bother where their stance is in overall. So it's in your opinion, these aren't really big deals to lose these series at this stage.
Not to me. It will be to someone. Someone will make the argument and say, you saw LeBron at age 41 or whatever he is now, and that's why he can't be the GOAT, or KD losing the first round. My God, Wilt Chamberlain would never. Wilt Chamberlain did a lot, but whatever.
Yeah, right. It's funny how a lot of those things work out for sure.
Mhm.
The legacy conversations, definitely the most difficult conversations to have on social media as any sort of NBA fanalist. People get pretty hyped about those talks.
And it's also subjective. I've reworked my matrix, kind of waiting for the end of the playoffs to debut it, but it's breaking out players at their peak, their longevity, and their kind of playoff numbers into 3 separate categories now. It just kind of is a better way to visualize it. But I showed some people, and one of the responses like, "Yeah, Kobe should have a better peak. There's no way X amount of players are better than him." I'm like, well, statistically, by these parameters, they were.
Right.
We can disagree about those parameters. We can disagree, but statistics will never tell the whole story of basketball. That's totally fair. But because we are subjective people, we will always have these subjective debates, and we can go round and round in circles forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, the only thing that's appropriate is positivity. As long as you're positive and not toxic about it, then argue all day if you want to. I have no problem with healthy debate, not one bit. So that becomes the issue. Is as soon as that toxicity slips in, then I become a little bit more okay. I've had enough. I'm out.
Oh yeah, and I'll just say, I love doing the exercise of trying. Aaron and I are up to a top 300. For those watching, if you're on TikTok, possible chairs. He's possible chairs everywhere. We've built out a top 300. Is it perfect? By God means no. We're gonna do some revisions this summer, but you gotta dig into guys, and it's a lot of fun. And to do that, I highly recommend, if you are interested, grab a buddy. Don't do it alone, because you'll have the debates. He'll see one thing in a guy, you'll see another thing. And it's a lot of fun to do.
And you guys bring such a fun energy. I love the back and forth and the going at each other and the respect, but at the same time, maybe
The
the
accusations of bias and the personal attacks and digs.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe there are some ad hominem attacks. We're not gonna lie, but it's okay because it's all in good fun. You guys still uh at least there's that respect in the sense I would say that you both know that you're going to make decent arguments.
Well,
You can respect each other's thought process.
what's funny is I met Aaron through doing TikToks.
Hmm,
He had put out a top 75 list, and he had Dikembe Mutombo there. And I stitched it, and I was like, these are bad arguments for Dikembe. Here's a framework, and Dikembe is not top 75 quality. As much as I love Dikembe, I got the jersey right
sure.
here. Um, and people jumped on that, and they're like, this guy's an idiot. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I shot him a message, like, hey man, I'm sorry, I was just trying to have an honest basketball conversation. Didn't mean for people to perceive me as attacking you or calling you dumb. Would you like to come on the pod? We can talk things out, it'd be fun. And he showed up, came on the pod, and I was like, hey man, if you ever want to come back, he's like, you do this every week? Like, yeah. It's like, cool, I'll be here next week, and has basically never left. And it's been he's super gracious, very great guy. And that, you can find real community on the internet. It's if you're kind and go about it the right way.
Absolutely. There's a lot of those kindred spirits on here. And Aaron, I've actually spoke with recently. We're working out to have him on the show as well. So shout out Possible Chairs. Uh, we approached the end of this show. We got here really fast. What are the best ways to follow you and consume your material?
I mean, if you put Hoops Temple into a lot of things, you'll find me. Nate underscore Hoops Temple on TikTok, Nathan S127 on Twitter. Just search Hoops Temple, you'll find me places. So,
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Nate. I really appreciate you coming through, my guy. This
of
was
course.
some good conversation, some fun playoff stuff. Everybody out there, this is Hoop Social, the Creator Hour. This was me, Ori, our guest, Nate. We appreciate you stopping by, and I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your night.